Hello, and welcome to Oklahoma City Thunder's game-winning Frontline Staff Relationship Strategy, a one-to-one media Take 30 webcast sponsored by Teletech. I'm Mila D'Antonio, Editor-in-Chief of One-to-One Media, and your moderator for today's event. Today's speaker is Pete Weinmiller, Senior Vice President of Guest Relations at NBA team Oklahoma City Thunder. Welcome, Pete.
Hi, Mila.
Before I review the agenda, let's go over the On24 interface. If you have a question for Pete, please click the red Q&A icon. If you encounter any technical issues with the On24 system, please click on the gold question mark for a list of FAQs. Also turn off all pop-up blockers because there will be a survey during the Q&A, and we encourage you to participate. All attendees will receive an email with a link to the archived version of this webcast. Finally, if you're tweeting, our Twitter hashtag for this webinar is One-to-One Media. Let's move on to today's agenda. Pete's going to discuss advice for training and motivating employees to deliver customer-centric experiences across all enterprise touchpoints, the knowledge to design and maintain a culture of problem solving, and the tools and processes necessary to empower your frontline staff to deliver on the customer experience. This webcast will also be followed by a Q&A and the post-event survey. So let's get started. Pete, the vision of the organization's guest relations department is to become the most fan-centric organization in professional sports. And the Oklahoma City Thunder franchise has won numerous awards honoring that distinction over the past few years, including a Gold Award in Customer Experience Excellence last year for our own Gartner and One-to-One Media CRM Excellence Awards. What does becoming fan-centric say about your organization and people, and why is it important to set that vision of becoming the most fan-centric organization in sports?
Well, it is a vision statement about being the most fan-centric, and I think it's good to have because it allows us to say we want to be the very best. And I think everybody on the call today can think about that and strive to be that, right? We all want to be the very best, and so that statement does that for us. It's a great way to have a piece of information that's in front of us that acts as a compass, and hopefully every day we get up and chip away at it. And then it also answers to the idea that we want to create something bigger than ourselves for our team and for them. I think people strive to be a part of organizations where there's something going on that's bigger than themselves. And I think that vision statement does that, about striving to be the very best, and people want to be a part of teams that are looking for those types of accomplishments. And I think that statement hopefully spells that out and is a part of our success.
Definitely, Pete. Thanks for that. You know, a big component of your strategy also is to becoming a fan-centric organization revolves around employee engagement. The Oklahoma City Thunder leverages, from what I understand, a frontline staff engagement platform called Click, which includes three main components: educate, evaluate, and congratulate, to ensure that employees are carrying out the team's mission of providing memorable guest experiences across all these touch points. Can you please describe each of these three components and walk our audience through how they're being carried out by the employees?
Sure. Maybe we can start off by talking about our business a little bit. We are a sports and entertainment organization, but we also are a retail business. I think that's one way to look at our organization, as a retail organization. And we, in turn, are delivering our product within a 18,000-seat arena. In order for us to actually play a regulation game of NBA basketball, we need about 600-plus employees to be in that building, not counting players, coaches, and trainers. And of those 600 employees, only about 50 of them actually are working for this organization full-time. The majority of the employees, overwhelming majority, are part-time employees, guest-facing part-time employees, working for about 16 different businesses to include the Thunder. And so when individuals, guests as we call them, come into the building, customers, they're not taking roll call about who works for what company. As far as they're concerned, they're all Thunder employees. It's one face to the guest, if you will. And so that's, for us, a opportunity to ask the question, can we get everybody on the same page? Can we make sure we're all looking at the information clearly and collectively as a team? So to have the idea of the educate, evaluate and congratulate model in place allows us to really make sure our quality standards, which is the click message, those would be our customer service quality standards, that information is being provided to our frontline staff so they can be successful. So to start with that, we do have quality standards. It's those 5 elements of our acronym: to be a courteous communicator, listen to learn, to initiate immediately, to create connections, to know your stuff. Doing those 5 consistently, we believe, are great ways to operate our organization and to turn, if you will, relationships into friendships with our customers. The educate piece, we can talk about that some more if you'd like to.
I'd love to.
Yeah, let's do that, because that for us is really the training component. It's about taking that click message and really trying to explain that and deliver that in a way where we're having a conversation, if you will, with our frontline staff about the elements of those 5 components. And it really is this idea of trying to maybe, I like to use the word educate versus training because I think people enjoy that component of the fact that they're learning new things and learning ways to be successful. And so our conversations really are deemed as trainings, if you will, but we love having conversations with our frontline staff through this whole process of the education idea. So that's the first thing we start off with, obviously, to make sure we're getting this information into the fabric of our frontline staff.
Great. Can you walk us through some of the components involved under the education?
Yeah. One of the maybe tools that we use is we're a badge community. We in turn wear credentials to work. We in turn provide those to staff, picture credentials. Maybe some of the folks that are on the call today are also in that same environment. They have to have picture credentials as a part of their uniform, or if you will, their mandate to come to work. A lot of businesses are that way today. We surely are no different, have to have that credential on us. And so what we've done is ask the question, what can we add to that process that allows us to keep this idea of click in front of our frontline staff, in front of our teammates. And so this is one component we have, is our click laminate. It's shown here without a lot of other pieces of information that might be on that lanyard, which would be, again, the picture ID or some of the pieces of information in terms of FAQs and maps and things like that. But this is a laminate that we provide to frontline staff every year. You'll see there's a couple different colors there because one of them was the one we had last year and we have one this year. So we're always asking employees to change that out. And if you ask why, it's because on the back of it you'll see it says attitude, it has a headline of attitude of imitation. Well, what we're asking the staff to do is to look at the 5 components of click, those being our quality standards again, but also asking the question, is there one thing they'd like to work on? Is there one thing they'd like to own that would be personal to them? And this particular employee here go with my heart, making a decision by going with your heart. Some employees will draw ears and saying they in turn want to be a better listener. But that whole attitude of imitation is that idea about, what's that one thing you'd like to get better at and personalize and work on that would invite people to be a part of what we're doing. And so it's fun to engage with our fantastic frontline staff. We have tremendous folks providing, I think, very A-plus service to our guests, and it's fun to look at their laminates and have them discuss what's that personal thing they've written down that is the attitude of imitation they want to get better at this season. So that's been, I think, a fun way for us to keep the click message alive in front of our staff. They wear it every day when they come to work.
Yeah, and I imagine writing this message down and being able to see it every day goes far in really instilling that into the employees.
I think so. The idea of just physically writing something down, and it's different for one person what they put down versus another, it becomes personalized. The quality standards are the non-negotiables. That's how we want to run the organization in terms of those customer service standards. But this then gives the teammate a chance to say something about what they want to achieve, what they want to work on, what they want to get better at, what they want to focus on. I think it's a great combination.
Great. Any other components under the Educate umbrella that you'd like to share?
Well, every operation, every business has that back-of-house piece of their office where employees are coming and going, and whether it be a business office or, in our case, an 18,000-seat arena. And so we've taken advantage of that. And you can see here in this slide, it's sort of a pictorial of a lot of different elements of our building that are back-of-house areas where employees are coming and going, whether it be the entrance to the arena where employees check in or stairways, whatever it may be. And you can see some of the signage here that really falls in line with some of the things we already talked about now, the click message about being the very best, if you will, striving to be the very best. And so these are great messages. I think they're not hopefully overwhelming. They're spread out over a large space, but they're good reminders to what we're looking for staff to provide, and also to reinforce how we think about them, that we think they are the very best, and we want them to understand that, and they deliver on that, because we've got a really great, like I said, frontline staff that does a phenomenal job of taking care of our guests.
Right. So again, seeing that message throughout their arena and throughout their day really, again, reinforces that message of being the most fan-centric organization and working toward that.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea.
Great.
For sure. And yeah, good.
Let's move on to the evaluate portion of the click strategy, Pete. And if you want to describe to our audience there what the tools and components are that fall under that.
Well, that's the whole idea of, measure what you treasure. And so if you're going to have these quality standards in place, that being click for us, and again, we just talked about the training piece about making sure that gets into the fabric of the organization, that you're having this conversation, if you will, with employees, this idea of trying to provide them elements that allow them to be set up for success. That's the whole idea of the education model. Then you want to evaluate that. You want to ask the question, is that actually getting traction? Is there a return on that? Do you see that happening? So we're fortunate to have a lot of different ways to do that, and one of the things we have is a phenomenal relationship with vendors across the country that provide us great feedback, and we can talk about that a little bit. And those vendors, I think we have a slide on that, are 5 different organizations that we are doing business with that are providing us information in terms of secret shopping scores, intercept survey information, receipt survey, post-game survey, our NPS number, all of the information that we're gathering up to ask the question simply, which is this, what are we doing well and what can we do better? And for us to be able to receive this information, in most cases in a real-time manner, that we can then push down into the fabric of the organization so we can do something about that. We in turn obviously will relate that back to responding to the guest, but then asking the question, is there something we can do to course correct before the next game? And then also using this information here, which is a neat component for us, we think it makes a lot of sense, is to also use this as a recognition tool. Are there things we're hearing that we then can take from this information in order to recognize employees? So it really is a great way for us not only to ask, can we do some things better, but what are we doing well, and let's make sure we recognize people for doing that.
Great. And then this next slide?
Yeah, well, that's sort of the idea about the more grassroots effort. We have the vendors. These are phenomenal companies we work with that provide us great information. I think we make good use of it. But we also are asking our guests, our fans, our customers for feedback, and doing that not only through the methods we just talked about in terms of surveys and such, but also in a very grassroots manner. It's the whole idea that we believe that a complaint is a gift. It's free consulting. We're begging for complaints. We want to hear how can we get better. And so a lot of things here you see in this slide are points of contact that we are putting out for guests to be able to get back to us on. And so if you start up in the upper left-hand corner, that actually is a small pad that our frontline staff will carry with them. So when they come across situations that they want to make note of, they can document that information on this piece of paper and then provide that back to the organization so we can act on that. Some of the other things you'll see, there's a pocket schedule there. There's a ticket envelope. Why we have that, there is information on those elements that are saying, hey, tell us how we're doing, and it provides them information, provides guests information to get back to us on that. So again, we're asking for that information. We want to hear back. We have our vision statement located in various parts of the building that allow folks to understand that is our vision, but also we have my business card is right there. So people are able to take a business card and get back to me, talk to me directly if they'd like to about something that's on their mind. So we're making ourselves available. This whole Testis idea, that's sort of a fun way for us to talk about that we are offering up different ways for you to get in touch with us. You can call us, you can email us, you can fill out a suggestion form, which is right there with the pin, or you can text us, which is the message below that, where we offer up a 24/7 text platform where individuals in-game or after the game can get in touch with us. And, of course, all the social media elements as well that we have in place. But this is a good example of some of the ideas that we've put out there, again, asking guests, please tell us how we're doing. We want that information. It's free consulting.
Thank you, Pete. And you're a sports organization, so people might think it's easier to carry out some of these strategies here. But could you recommend any of this to companies in other industries, say in retail?
Well, again, as I mentioned, I believe it's easy to look at our organization and see that we're a retail business. We 43 nights a year, hopefully more, but at least 43 nights a year, are putting on a 3 to 4 hour retail event. And so we have food and beverage elements. We have merchandise elements. We have a lot of different retail aspects to our overall event that we're staging. But it's the idea that we are trying to make sure we're engaging with fans, no matter if you're a season ticket member, and we have phenomenal season ticket members and phenomenal fans that may just come to one game a year. And it's the whole idea that every night is opening night. You may be coming to the 20th game of the season, which is the 20th game of the season, but for you it's your opening night if it's your first game. And so it's this idea of trying to create a special atmosphere no matter what game we're playing, but it's this idea of also never forgetting that what we think might be going really well may be different in the eyes of the guest. And so the connection there is, can you get the guest to share that information with you? And if we have a relationship with you, then obviously it's easier because we know who you are. If you're a season ticket member, one of our key accounts, that becomes a little bit more linear. But for the fan that's there for that one night, these are different ways for them for sure to be in touch with us.
Thanks, Pete. Let's move on to the congratulate portion of your employee engagement strategy, the third piece, if you'd like
Sure.
to.
Well, one of my favorite quotes, I have a quote I always enjoy seeing up on my bulletin board here, which is from William James, the father of modern psychology, and it goes like this: the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. And so if you're going to educate, provide information to your team, if you're going to evaluate that, then you really have to make sure you're recognizing individuals. So this is the recognition piece. And we can talk about that really through our pyramid of recognition, which are really three elements that we have in place that I think are recognizing employees in a way that makes them feel valued. We're always working on these programs to ask ourselves, can we get better at them? But the top one is our Employee of the Year program, if you will. We actually do this twice a year, where we in turn will bring employees on court during halftime. We're actually doing that tonight, matter of interest. We'll have 30-plus employees who've been recognized as going above and beyond, and they'll be recognized on court during halftime. We did one earlier in the year. We'll do one now. But this is our highest achievement, if you will, in terms of individuals providing 100% guest care, and they'll be part of a whole presentation tonight where we'll offer them up a lapel pin. They'll receive some other items of interest. They'll get their photograph on the court. We'll frame that, give that back to them. But it's really a way for us to have this Employee of the Year program in place. And then as we work our way down to the right side, it's really the Employee of the Month program, which is, I'm a fan favorite. What that means is we allow our customers, our guests, to let us know, are there frontline staff that you in turn would like to recognize? And so there's various ways they can do that. We offer up information throughout the game on how you can make that happen. And then we select a winner by just pulling the name out of the hat. More recommendations you have, the better chances you have of winning. But we recognize that winner. They also are given a presentation in-game during one of our events, and we provide them some gift certificates to the team shop and take their picture as well. It's a whole ceremony, but a great program that we do monthly. And then I click with my guests is our Employee of the Moment programs. We have the Employee of the Year, Employee of the Month, and Employee of the Moment. And we can talk about that some more if you'd like to, because that's a program that we really enjoy working on, and I think it's a program that's been received well by the Frontline team. And let's talk about
please
that.
Describe what that. Yes, let's describe what that entails.
The next slide might be a good one to look at, because it'll describe really the different elements of the idea of this Employee of the Moment program. So these blue chips, these blue plastic chips, we provide to full-time employees that are working here for the Thunder and also with our other partners. Again, we have these 16 business partners to include the Thunder that make up the 600-plus employees that are working in the building. And so we provide these chips to management, to full-time employees. where they can go out and recognize part-time employees that are clicking with their guests. And we talked about click earlier, about just being courteous, listening, initiating, creating connections, knowing your stuff, those type of things. And when you collect 4 of these chips, when you earn 4 of these chips being delivered to you by one of the individuals that has these, or they can spot you doing that, they can walk up to you, they can catch you in the moment, they can introduce themselves to you, you realize you're on the same team. When you collect 4 of these click chips, then you can redeem them at this redemption center we have, which is actually out on the concourse where guests can see that happen. We want to make sure guests understand there's a program in place that is allowing those employees to be recognized for doing A-plus customer service. And so they can redeem these 4 chips. Employees can. We have a gong there. They can hit the gong. It's a ceremony. We open up the various doors in this cabin. We have different items they can choose from to redeem the 4 chips. And they also receive a lapel pin as well. And so that's been a great program because, again, it allows us to complement the other 2, but we're always looking for individuals, doing our best to look for individuals that are clicking with their guests.
Do you have a certain number of part-time employees that you award per game?
It changes. Some employees will redeem their chips right away. Some will hold on to them for a while, and they'll eventually get to our redemption center. Everybody has their own rhythm about how they do that, but our job every night is to make sure employees don't feel invisible, that they're being recognized, even if it's just a hi, hello, a smile, noticing what they're doing. But those individuals who are being recognized with the click chips are doing one of those 5 components in a way that someone's seen them doing that, about being courteous, about listening, creating a connection, knowing their stuff, and it's fun to catch employees doing that, and we always want to do the best we can. We try to get better at that every game, about trying to recognize those employees. But it's a fun process. I think the individuals who have the chips and are able to give them to the frontline staff enjoy that exercise, enjoy being a part of that.
What would you say that sort of public recognition, what type of effect does that have on these employees?
Well, it's that whole idea about the quote I just mentioned, is that the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. I think employees are looking for employers that care about them, and that can be done in a lot of ways. It doesn't have to be always about a structured recognition program. It's about the fact about I don't want to have employees leave the building feeling invisible. I want them to be recognized. I want them to be spoken to, make a handshake, a high five, a smile, whatever it may be. And that has to happen in a way that is put forth by giving some thought to it. Just can't happen by happenstance. It has to be thought about and shown to the employees that there's concern there. But this program here, I think, is one more way of saying to an employee, we like the way you handle yourself. Thank you for doing the good work that you're doing. Thank you for being a part of these quality standards about clicking with your guests. And sometimes you have to ask the question, is the receiving of the click chip just as important as the redemption of the click chip? And I think that's true. I think often receiving the click chip is just as important for an employee than the actual redemption of the click chip, if that makes sense. I think it's an interesting program that has positives on the front end and on the back end as well.
So it sounds like you have numerous efforts in place around keeping employees engaged and working toward that mission of becoming fan-centric. So then, Pete, what are you and then employees then doing to keep the fans engaged?
Well, if you were to ask me how do you keep fans engaged, you do that by having engaged employees. And I think that's been one of our successes here, that we have engaged employees. We talked earlier about problem solving, so let's talk about that a little bit, because I think truly engaged employees are great problem solvers. And the NBA has provided us with some research that talks about fans consider arena staff interactions the most important factor in the arena experience. So we know how important having a relationship with frontline staff is, that the guest has a relationship with those individuals. It's crucial to our business. And it's crucial, I think, to any business. One piece of information we like to use a lot from John Goodman with TARP, John provides some great research, is this idea that if you all head out to a restaurant tonight and you have a experience that's less than positive, 70% of the people will come back and do business again with that restaurant if the problem they have is resolved in their favor. And that's a number that I think makes sense. No one really seems to argue that. But there's a 25% lift. Now 95% would come back and do business again with that restaurant, just sort of selecting a business, if you will. 95% would come back and do business again with that restaurant if the problem's resolved in their favor, but now in the moment. And so we're looking for problem solvers in the moment. We really are encouraging our staff to go with their heart, if you will. You saw that earlier on the click laminate that this one had put down, to go with their heart and make a decision in the moment to care for guests. And that's a big part of our education piece, if you will. And we go back to that, about this idea of setting people up for success, about letting them know that they have the green light to make the guest experience gold, that they in turn have the single greatest positive day-to-day impact on their guests, and they're a part of this, something bigger than themselves, about this idea about being a part of the most fan-centric organization in professional sports. That's our vision statement. Those three elements are really crucial to, I think, keeping fans engaged.
Definitely. So we want to leave enough time for Q&A, so let's end our presentation part, Pete, with an advice question. What would you recommend to companies who are stalled around these areas of customer strategy and employee engagement?
Well, one of the things we talk about here a lot, and I'm sure every company's had this conversation and should and does, and it's who we are today and how we run our businesses, is about embracing technology. And our organization surely has done that. But I am also concerned at times about the fact that I want to make sure that the more high-tech the world becomes, that we understand that the more people crave high-touch service. And so as much as we have embraced technology here in our organization and other organizations obviously are a part of that rhythm, I don't want to lose the idea, and we surely haven't done that as an organization. I speak for all of the talented people I get a chance to work with every day, that we still want to make sure that we embrace innovation, but we also are not taking our eyes off being high touch with our customers, our guests, and also our employees, our frontline team for sure.
Great advice, Pete. Thank you. It's time for our Q&A session now. So first, a few reminders. If you'd like a PDF copy of the deck, click the download presentation button at the bottom of your screen. If you missed part of the presentation, all attendees will receive an email with a link to the archived version. I'd like to remind everyone about the survey posted during this next Q&A period. Please take a moment to participate, and again, you'll need to turn off your pop-up blockers to enable the survey. So let's begin the Q&A. To ask Pete a question, click the Submit Question button in the lower left-hand section of your presentation window. If we don't get to your question, Pete and us will email you a response afterward. So our first question is from Ryan Rosenberg, and Pete, he'd like to know, within your evaluation, wait a minute, I'm sorry, that just cut out. I apologize. Our question is, how important is it for senior leadership to be involved in the initiatives discussed?
Okay, good. Yeah, good question. The way I would answer that is you can't delegate values. You can't delegate values. You have to have the entire organization involved in what you would consider to be important, and in the eyes of what we're doing, this is very important. So senior leadership has to be a part of this initiative. They not only have to buy in to the concept that is being put in place, but have to model the behavior. So we are asking senior leadership to be a part of all these processes, to be a part of the education piece, to model the behavior, to use the CLICK acronym on how they relate to frontline staff as well as also our guests. Good examples, if I see a piece of trash on the ground, I pick it up. Why? Because that models the behavior, the fact that I know my stuff. I want to keep the building clean. That's a part of who we are. And so we want to have that be a part of everybody who's is a part of our management team for sure. And then the recognition piece, we provide click chips to our senior leadership so they can be a part of recognizing frontline staff in the moment, that they will catch individuals clicking with their guests. It has to be that. It really does. I don't know how the program would be successful without our senior leadership being intimately involved with what we're doing here.
Great. We have one more question, Pete. How do you avoid creating a customer service flavor of the month environment concerning the messaging that you provide your staff?
Well, that's what I think we have going on here in terms of not having a flavor of the month. We have these quality standards. We have the click message, and we've had that since day one. And so I think if you can put a message in front of your team, and I'm a big believer that the front line is the bottom line. Our front line is so key to what we do. They have to have a message that is clear and is consistent. And so for us to put anything in front of those employees at this time would say to them, I would imagine, that it is a flavor of the month. It is something that seems to be different than what we were talking about this time last year. So we stay true to the quality standards, and we surely are using different methods to evaluate that information and also to educate that information. And even we might find other ways to have folks be congratulated on that. But it doesn't change the core principles of what we're trying to achieve, that we are looking for individuals to click with their guests. And one of the great definitions of the word click in the dictionary is to be successful with somebody. And so that's what we're trying to do here simply, is to be successful in working with our customers.
Great. Thanks, Pete. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so any unanswered questions will be addressed via email. This concludes Oklahoma City Thunder's game-winning Frontline Staff Relationship Strategy, a one-to-one media Take 30 webcast sponsored by Teletech. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for attending and have a great day.